Donald Trump going to make oil great again?
That's what he says. I don't know if he used that exact phrase, but it wouldn't surprise me. Use just very simple terms. Basically, going to deregulate oil and other fossil fuels.
What'd you think about what he said about OPEC? Did you hear that?
Exactly, no.
He said he was just like, oh, if OPEC did what they do in the world, in this country, they'd be in jail, and they set the price of oil, which I actually don't necessarily agree with, especially in the market today.
Yeah, so again, he's leaning on old truths that people...
That was true in the 70s and the 80s, but
it was
not today.
even true like in
10 years ago.
Yeah,
today, yeah.
and maybe even as far back as just a few years ago, because you saw what happened in 2014. But then, or they tried, right? They tried to use their old mechanisms, and oil producers in the U.S.,
right.
Some of them are going bankrupt, but those probably shouldn't have been in business anyways.
Right.
And so I think he's just leaning on those old truths to where OPEC doesn't have nearly the power that it used to. As you've seen with the meetings over the past year or so that have resulted in
nothing,
next to nothing in terms of market movements, and they can't get on the same page right now. So there's some disagreement, and rightfully so, within those ranks.
Trump's obviously pro-fracking.
Pro-fracking, pro-coal. Not everyone, but there's more pro-frackers than there are pro-coal miners.
That was the point that I found most interesting. Was the pro-coal?
Yeah.
Is that even a good idea, given that there's so much natural gas in this country?
I don't think it's a good idea because other countries are shunning coal.
Right.
And
and he's like, we're still sending coal to China. And I'm like, well, that's not quite true still. They're shutting down their...
Some experts have suggested that China's carbon emissions peaked last year. They're 2 years ahead of their carbon emissions reduction goals.
Who would have bet on that, right?
Not me. And they're also scheduled to build out the biggest array of solar power this year in the world. So the biggest purchaser of coal is turning a cold shoulder to it. Our coal users in the United States are turning a cold shoulder to it. I think that's a talking point, and I wouldn't recommend investing based on that.
Got it.
At least in terms of coal. And at the Fool in general, we don't recommend investing based on elections because these things take time to play out.
And then it's a coin flip.
I mean, if you invested in healthcare trying to play the
Obamacare
Affordable Care Act, that took 7 years to get through, and we're still years away from finding out exactly how it's going to impact various sectors within the healthcare industry. So we don't necessarily agree with investing based on election cycles. That being said, oil probably wouldn't do terribly if Trump was the president, but he keeps talking about reducing our impact, our reliance on international oil. But
he kept hitting the oil or energy independence.
Yeah, but we still only produce 50% of the oil we need. I doubt we'll ever produce all of the oil we need until demand comes down.
Right. So you don't think, because he basically intimated that we could produce 15, 16 million barrels a day in this country, and I was like,
yeah.
To our listeners that aren't watching the video,
he oversimplifies things that
the look on Taylor's face is pretty.
Yeah. Considering we were producing around 9.5, now we're below 9, and
falling,
and clearly we're not rediscovering enough to produce 15 to 16 million barrels, unless some countries just completely dry up and we have to. I doubt that'll ever happen.